Mistakes people make is focusing on things that don't matter as much as they think they do, right? Some people I know, they buy all the equipment, they spend months thinking of the perfect name.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Test, Optimize, and Scale. I've been looking forward to today's episode. Dr. Jeremy Weisz from Inspired Insider, one of the top podcasts speaking about entrepreneurship. I was recently on the show, had such a great time, said, hey, we need to speak to the Test.Optimize.Scale audience. Going to be talking about relationships, going to be talking about growth, all the things that are required for growth stage companies to hit those next levels. Dr. Jeremy, thank you for taking the time to hop on the show here.
Jason, I'm excited.
And how did you get into the world of podcasting? What was your journey? What is your background? I want to familiarize the audience a bit.
Yeah, so I have a strange background. I studied biochemistry at University of Wisconsin-Madison. I went on to chiropractic school. My dad suffered when I was young with neck pain, and I saw him go through that. And the only thing that helped him was a chiropractor, actually, after years. And so I saw him, really get to pain-free, and I decided in high school, I think maybe I want to do that. And so what I did, to your test, like the whole show of this Test, Optimize, Scale, I wanted to test it. Like, is this I'm going to do the rest of my life? So I ended up working for the chiropractor that he saw in high school to see, is this what I actually want to do? And I saw people come in with a frown, leave with a smile. And so I went on to chiropractic school. In chiropractic school, they don't teach you about business, right? They teach you to help people with their backs and necks. And so I was going to, after chiropractic school, was going to business conferences, and those business conferences at the time, this is like, we're talking, 2006, 7, translated to like internet marketing conferences. Okay. And I stumbled across this thing at the time. It wasn't called podcasting. Really, it was people doing interviews and publishing them online. Right. At that point, really, obviously, Zoom, what we're on now, didn't exist. So I was using Skype at the time, which now doesn't exist. But so I was like, combines everything I love. And you get this, Jason, which is professional development. I get to talk to amazing people, ask them any question I want.
Yep.
It combines, client relationships and referral marketing partnerships, because I get to talk to great potential partners and collaborating and forming a real relationship with them and giving to them, right? I always look at ways on how I can give first to people. And I found no better way to give than to just profile people and really creating marketing assets that they can use to promote their business. And so I was doing that early on, and really just publishing it online. And I made some amazing connections throughout the world, throughout my stories and journey with podcasting. Early on, I had the founder of P90X on, Tony Horton. I had the co-founder of Pixar and Atari on the podcast. I get just to ask them every question. One of my favorite books, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Oh, yeah. After I listened to it, I'm like, I really want to ask him some particular questions. So I invited him to come on too. So that's how I stumbled across it. I never meant to have a business on it, actually, because I was a full-time chiropractor. I had my own office, massage therapist, office managers. But I was helping people start reaching out to me, asking me, hey, you're doing this podcast thing. Can you help me launch and run my podcast? And I'm like, I'm a yes person. Sure, I'll help you. And so I started helping people, and just people started referring other people, and it turned into a totally separate business on accident. Eventually it eclipsed my chiropractic business, and all my team and staff were virtual at the time. Right. And eventually I sold the chiropractic business and basically focused on Rise 25 and just helping people launch and run and build their podcast. So I never set out to do this. It just, I love building relationships. And really what it comes down to for me is building relationships with people I want to build relationships with and give to those people. So that's kind of the long and the short of from biochemistry to podcasting.
I love it. I can tell how much you enjoy it as well, too. There's a quote I subscribe to the most successful people, you can't tell whether they're working or playing. They're just going after their vision of perfection. And that's what I'm hearing as you're talking, like helping people, building, nurturing relationships, being able to give first, started as a chiropractor, built my business, saw the conferences, turned to digital marketing discussions, and early in on the video streaming, putting out thought leadership through content. Now you're able to read a book, reach out to the author, have them on, speak, even help others launch their podcast, which for me, I know I am a big fan of. What type of podcasters do you work with? What
Yeah.
spectrum of verticals, industries do you see?
A lot of B2B businesses, right? So software companies, manufacturing companies, digital agencies. But if there's a B2B component, meaning like a partnerships component, so we do work with some law firms and medical offices and those type of industries too. They want to form like great partnerships with other industries as well. It's funny, like I love how it starts with Test.Optimize.Scale for you. And the test, I remember when I first started my podcast, Jason, I didn't have a name for it. The mistakes people make is focusing on things that don't matter as much as they think they do, right? Some people I know, they buy all the equipment, they spend months thinking of the perfect name. When I started mine, I didn't know what to call it. So I just started interviewing people and they'd come on, say, welcome to the podcast. I had no name.
Yeah.
Okay. I had my name as the URL. So jeremyweisz.com was my URL. So I didn't, that was it. And I just published them on there until I'm like, I'll think of a name. Also, early on, I thought I was going to have the foremost podcast on productivity. I geek out on productivity tools. If we talked, try and listen to, like, when I had you on, I listened to all the interviews on like 3 times speed. So I have like a Google, a Chrome plugin that speeds everything up, and so I started interviewing some of the top productivity experts in the world starting, the first 4 I did, I saw some definite patterns, and like it was basically people kind of, they weren't meaning to, but they basically were repeating the same thing of each other. So I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get so bored if I do this. Luckily, I didn't name my show the Productivity Podcast Show or whatever. I was just testing what subjects and topics I wanted to talk about. And so, I've done different series over the years, but I didn't pigeonhole myself into a specific name. I didn't pigeonhole myself into a specific topic because we, evolve over time.
Yeah.
So I've really just kind of followed what was interesting.
I like that. I put too much time into my name selection. I a little nervous at first, to be honest. I've done a lot of speaking at conferences and workshops, but I didn't know what this medium would mean for me. And when the recording was out there, and test, optimize, scale is our approach. It's something I say a lot. So I probably went through 50, maybe 100 different names, stuff that was catchy and clever. And, it kept coming back to this when talking about what the show would be about. And it's given me a nice recurring format. Worked with a consultant on it, put together a song, logo, everything. So it had its, professionalism around with it. But yeah, when people talk to me in my circles and my professional network, they're not always referencing the podcast name as much as the podcast. That's the real meat of it. If I'm inviting them onto the podcast, we're having a discussion, it's about them, less about the show name. I definitely know what you mean about people putting focus in the wrong details. I see it around fundraising too, where sometimes groups could, bootstrap, find different ways to start what they're doing, audience build as a big emphasis. Instead, they're wasting, 3 months, 12 months, much longer at times, focusing on the wrong details.
Yeah, I mean, we did a full episode on my show. We share everything for free on the podcast on Spread Insider, which is how do you name your show? And you said, like, one of the things, and this is a 20-minute episode, but one of the things you mentioned, which is if there's a phrase that someone repeats over and over, if you're always like, oh, you got to test, optimize, scale, great, you have your name.
Yeah.
Or I just tell people sometimes keep it simple. Like if you spent a lot of time thinking of your company name, it could be your company name's podcast.
Yeah.
Or the other is just the results people get for people is another way I think about the name, right? So like there's a software company that helps people scale up, right? They're not called the B2B SaaS podcast. If they help B2B SaaS companies, they're more called, boost revenue podcast because that's the result they get. So Just a couple tips on that end for people listening.
Sure. What are the key points that you point to for someone who's aspiring to be a podcaster? What are the commitments they need to make, and what could they get out of it if they stick to it for long enough?
Yeah, I mean, for for a business, and I'll just preface with, like, it's a business podcast because we don't do true crime podcasts or comedy podcasts or sports podcasts. It's like a totally separate,
Different animal.
strategy, obviously. But when I'm thinking of an actual business, I think of ROI. People don't stop podcasting because of poor audio quality or they had the wrong name. They stop because they didn't get ROI from their efforts, right? And so we start with, how do you get ROI from your efforts with podcasting? And that goes into, well, one, the first, I mean, there's 5 steps I think about to how you profit with a podcast if you're an actual business, right? I just got off the phone with someone like an hour ago, and I recommended, I don't always do this, but I'm like, I don't know if maybe a podcast is good for you, but I don't know if it makes sense to work with anyone, right? Because they're very B2C and they have a very low client lifetime value. And I want to see them get ROI. So it's just a hard, if they have a low priced product, with a low lifetime value, it's sometimes difficult. And I thought there may be better ways for them to generate revenue than start a podcast. It may sound weird because I think podcasting is the best thing ever, but I would still, the first step for me, Jason, is to create a Dream 200. Okay. And when I think of Dream 200 for a company, I don't just, some people think of it as someone's ideal client, right? I think of it broader, which is strategic partner, referral partners, or big authorities in the space, right? And for me, like when we talk about the scaling piece of the Test.Optimize.Scale, that's how I think of scaling, which is partnerships. For me, because if someone has 1,000 of my ideal clients and I partner with them and we have their ideal clients, we can really boost what they're doing and they can boost what we're doing. So for me, I think of partnerships. It's a much longer term approach, obviously, because forming partnerships takes time. It takes time to form relationships. So it's not like instantaneous, but I feel with a podcast, I can form those relationships, give to them through the podcast, introduce them to people. But first, it starts with like thinking of creating that Dream 200. Obviously, potential clients is on the list, past clients, um, but I really focus in on those partnership, referral, and strategic partnerships. I remember, and sometimes it goes back into who is someone's ideal client. I was talking to a financial services, someone who's a wealth manager, and I was like, "Who's your ideal client?" They're like, "Anyone with money." I'm like, "That's not really a niche." Okay. So I'm like, okay, who are your best clients that you love working with, you get the best results for, and you actually profit, right? Because you can do the other two and not make a lot of profit from someone. And they said, they gave me 10 of their clients, of their best clients, and 4 of them were dentists. I'm like, did you realize that 4 are dentists here? And they're like, not really. I'm like, okay, cool. Why don't you focus on dentists then? And so we talked about those partnerships, and some of those partnerships included people who run conferences for dentists, people who have practice management companies for dentists. And so we had one of those people, he had one of those people on who he didn't know, right? And that person both ran a conference and had a practice management group for dentists. After the show, this person said, "Hey, why don't you come to my conference on me?" And this ticket was a $2,000 or $3,000 ticket. It wasn't like a inexpensive offering. And so he went. He's like, "Yeah, of course, I'm going to go." And this guy Jason took this wealth manager around and just introduced him to different big players in the space. So overnight, he went from, okay, I think I'm going to dentists are good, to meeting some of the biggest players in the space. It just went down to who's the ideal client and then creating that Dream 200 around it. And I think of the categories there. I mentioned a couple, which is conferences, practice management people, authors in the industry, because they're usually monetizing a little bit different ways than other people, right? They have maybe a big audience of, you know, book buyers, and maybe they do some consulting or speaking, but they don't do what that person's business does, right? So there's a good
Right.
collaboration there. The other one, and that's also, they're usually big authorities in the space, right? So, for instance, I had on books that I love, I mentioned Never Split the Difference. I had Traction, Gino Wickman, who started EOS. And right, I'm like, afterwards, Gino, there's authorities in certain spaces. Like maybe if you go to a street corner and you ask 99 people who Gino Wickman is, they have no idea, right? But if you talk to some of the entrepreneurial world, a lot of people know what EOS is. They run their business in EOS. And so forming a relationship with him, first of all, it's obviously social proof credibility, but he's referred us people also, And so the other one, so I love the conferences, consulting companies, authors, speakers, and big authorities in spaces from that Dream 200. And that's kind of where I start is someone has to know their ideal client. And then we figure out, okay, what's the referral strategic partner strategy around that?
Absolutely. So essentially crafting a marketing strategy, product being a big part of that. You're creating the product as part of this. I've found a lot of success building those type of strategic relationships with conferences. We'll get contacted at times to market the conference. And like you said, when I'm there, they're making introductions into different exhibitors. I've found a lot of ways to tap into their email list and different cross promotions in what we're doing as a whole. The podcast for me as well has been an excellent tool for strategic partnership
Yeah.
development. If
I
I
mean,
go up
your
to,
name of your company is Digital Niche Agency, right? And so
yeah,
like you've
yeah,
really niched into that, top investor and user acquisition agency. And that's why you're so successful, because you've really niched in and people know exactly what you do. You know all the big players in the space, they know
yes,
you and everything like that. So
and fell
makes a
into
big
it.
difference.
Almost the way you said, hey, I was thinking productivity at first. It was growth marketing. We were one of 1,000 growth marketing agencies, probably in Los Angeles. There's just no shortage of them. And capital raising was always part of the discussion. So once I learned, hey, I could use our marketing skill set to bring investors, bring capital into this clientele, I can be of value. This is something people want. Big part of figuring out your target audience, right? So built referral partnerships there, been instrumental to our growth. And when I'm looking at podcast guests or even just building a strategic partnership, it's a great value add. It's a great way for me to get to know somebody, if nothing else. Of, hey, would love to see if there's any ways we could collaborate. In fact, I have a podcast, would love to have you on. They'll likely promote to their audience, which is part of what's of interest in building these partnerships. We're absolutely going to promote to ours. And then we're exploring what we could do together. And after we've had this, face-to-face discussion for, a good 30 minutes, hour, and really understanding each other at a better level, it's one of the key things I point out in terms of why someone should start a podcast.
Yeah, and for Jason, we have we do a pipeline meeting like 3 days a week. All right. In
Okay.
the pipe, we use Active Campaign, whatever people use. I know people use Trello. We've used Pipedrive in the past. But our pipeline meeting, we have a client pipeline meeting and a referral strategic partner pipeline meeting. And the columns of the pipeline are just ways we can give to people. Like that's really what we're going over. And so when we're reviewing it, it's like, okay, Jason's awesome. Did we have him on the podcast? Yes. Did we introduce him to anyone yet? Did we send him a gift in the mail? Did we feature him in our physical newsletter? Did we promote him on social media? So like all the columns are just, how do we give this person? It's never like, how do we get a referral from them? How do we close the sale? That's not how we're thinking. It's like, what are these columns of giving?
Yes.
Right. And if someone has a podcast like you, I love that because it makes it very easy for me to introduce you to someone. Like,
Yes.
did I introduce Jason, anyone to be on a podcast since we run a lot of podcasts? Or if you have a podcast, did we introduce any guests to him that would be an awesome potential referral strategic partner? So I don't just say, hey, Jason, here's a good guest. I'm like, hey, Jason, you should meet Joe. I think there's ways you can collaborate, but Joe, you should also go on Jason's podcast. obviously I do a double opt-in intro too for people. So I'm always asking, because one, you may have not any room until for 6 months. So I don't want
Yeah.
to be like, hey, I want to bother you with an intro. So I'm always like, Jason, here's the person, here's our bio. I love Text Expander. We're talking productivity tools. Best like $4 you could spend a month, by the way. They should pay me a referral fee for every time I say it. They don't. Um, but it's a short code that you can type in. So whenever I introduce Jason for the first time, I save intro Jason Fishman. And then I already have a pre-written bio that I've created that's really nice. So that anytime I just go, hey, intro Jason Fishman, right? And it spits out boom. And then the other person I go, hey, you guys collaborate. You may be a good fit for Jason's podcast. I'll let him determine it, even though I've checked ahead of time. Same thing with them. And then boom, it takes me, because I make 5 to 20 introductions a day. If I did that without this tool, it would take me 3 hours. Okay. But each intro takes me 30 seconds because of that. So, but going back into the pipeline, it's that pipeline of giving. And that's kind of how I think of it. And because people are always saying, what's the best clients, customers, the referrals,
Mhm.
right? But how do you create a predictable referral pipeline, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's
Difficult.
the podcast. Um, and I say the best way to get a referral is to give referrals, right? And not expect anything in return. So I'm constantly making introductions and referring people to each other. And I'm not expecting anything, by the way. I just like to give to givers. And that's kind of my criteria, that who I'm going above and beyond for. So one of my favorite books is Adam Grant's Give and Take, where he talks about, if people haven't listened to it, there's givers, takers, and matchers. Givers are the most successful and givers are the least successful because they spend their time giving probably to takers or just spinning their wheels. So I really look at who's a giver, and I just try and give as much as humanly possible to those givers.
Well said. And I'm always trying to be of value. The fact that you have this focus, even measurements around how much you're giving, speaks very loudly to me. I was taught business is the monetization of value. I was also taught, psychology. People like the way you make them feel. They associate you with the way you make them feel. So if you're coming to them with value adds, hey, here's this introduction. Hey, you want to be on a podcast? It's different than if you're doing a sales follow up and you're in that category of their psyche. So giving first, giving pipelines, I think that's great inspiration for everybody tuned in here. I'm gonna start playing around with this text expander. I'm still living in the Stone
Oh
Age, writing
yeah,
these one by one, and
you'll love it.
therefore doing a lot less of the introductions.
Oh
I
yeah,
do get
it's
good
it's
feedback on
it's
them though.
game changing, and our
Yeah,
customer support team uses it too, because if there's similar responses that we're getting, then it's like, listen, enter in, for instance, like we get a lot of questions like, how do I name my podcast? Right? So we could have one, name your podcast, and it's a full email sharing that episode link and a bunch of stuff. So it makes it easy for our customer support team to answer questions. So kind of looking at our tech stack, we use Sweet Process for SOPs. And so if the SOP could be literally type in this text expander, right? Because everything's in that message. So if the SOP is
sure.
like, how to name my podcast, log in a text expander, type this in. So that could be the SOP, right? But yeah, it's been game changing for us. So Sweet Process, a combination of Sweet Process, ClickUp, and Text Expander, has been huge for us.
I look at a strategic partnership and the development of it as a blank canvas, and then I'm painting it with the other side. I don't want to make it sound like this is the exact way we partner with groups. I could share examples or different types of relationships I have with strategic partners, referral, managed service, white label, different structures to show this is something that we do. But I like them to take some ownership of it as well. So I look at it as something we're both putting together. What have you found to be the best approach in developing a new strategic partnership?
When I think of strategic partnerships, I'm thinking of, really someone I respect, admire. We have complementary services, complementary clients, right?
Yes.
The first thing I think the biggest shortcut, that's something that I forget, Jason, is I pay for their stuff. Like, if I find that valuable, there's people I don't care if they're a friend. I'm like, you don't have to comp me. Like, I want to pay for your stuff. Okay. The second is finding other people, introducing them to pay for their stuff. Right. And it goes back into, okay, did I refer him a client? One, finding out their biggest challenge. And it's not even something I can solve necessarily, but let's say their biggest, like I was talking to someone a couple weeks ago, and their biggest challenge is really training their salespeople. So again, because of the podcast, I've had on a bunch of top salespeople. Sometimes, Jason, I'll have someone on my podcast just because I find it interesting and I want to introduce them to someone that I think they'd be a fit, but I want to just form that relationship first so I can make a warm introduction. So anyways, I referred them to someone who charges $50,000 to go into an organization and basically help train the salespeople. And did a free call with them, for an hour because I made the introduction, right? And we're just helping this founder solve a challenge. It's not in my wheelhouse, but just finding the right person that I can introduce and add value. Maybe they'll work together beyond that, maybe not, but at least it helped him, with what he was focused on in that moment. And the other thing is, obviously, making introductions just from a business standpoint, of not just the things that they're struggling with, but also potential clients, other strategic partnerships. Because I've formed a lot of strategic partnerships. I'm like, hey, there's another person, who basically, let's say digital agencies are great referral partners, they're good clients. We have this person who focuses in accounting for digital agencies, right? This other person has a mastermind for digital agencies. So both of them so I just introduce other strategic partners to each other, right? To help, increase what both people are doing, right? And so those are just a number of ways and that the other key pieces I mentioned, the pipeline, is keeping in touch with people, right? Obviously for me, a podcast stays top of mind. So I know when I have Jason on the podcast, we're going to create an awesome post on the website. It's going to go across 13 different podcast channels, a YouTube channel. And then I know that in month one, sorry, Jason, I'm like revealing what's going to happen. In month one, we're going to produce a snippet and post it across all our social channels, right? In month 6, we're going to post another one on the socials. A month 12, we're going to post another one on the social channels. So it's a gift that keeps giving, and it's a system that keeps going without me having to think about, do I need to check in with Jay? I already know, like in month 1, 6, 12, we're going to be putting stuff out. And by the way, none of that is going to say anything about me. Right. It's all about the other person and their business and what they're doing. And that reminds me, like this happened the other day. I had Sam Moses of Socrates. They create custom socks for like big companies like Netflix and Google. And so I think I did the interview 2 years ago. It was a long time ago. The snippet popped because our team will like post it on social, create the snippet. And I saw it come up. I'm like, oh yeah, how's Sam doing? I haven't talked to him in a while. And I just literally took a picture with my phone on my computer, texted him, because at this point we're texting. And I said, hey, I just posted about you again. Hope you're well. What are you up to? Just a check-in, right? Yeah. It just reminded me to check in with the person. Beyond that, with Active Campaign, every time I reach out to someone, I send a follow-up. We, program a follow-up task, right? So we have a team member. There's maybe 4 people on the call, and we're each doing our own reach out. And we have one person leading the call, and they're pulling up, hey, Jeremy, Jason, Fishman, what's up with them? Okay, cool. Give me a second. I email Jason, hey, what's up? It's been like 4 months. What are you up to? Just checking in. Or I'll text or whatever it is. And then I'll go, hey, I want to make sure to check in, see what he's up to. You may have told me you're doing something, and set it for 4 months from now, right? And so there's always a follow-up task, or I wouldn't do any of it, to be honest, Jason. So there is always a follow-up task, but there's a system and then the manual process, which is I want to make sure there's people I just keep in touch with.
It's all in the follow-up. When I'm looking at digital advertising and different marketing campaigns, it's touch point 7, 17. Makes me think of those old sales graphs where it was very eye-opening the first time I heard it. Most sales reps don't follow up. And then the percentage that do, contact 2, 3, 5, 7, I think it's down to like 10% on the seventh touch point. Meanwhile, it's the reverse for when sales take place. Touch point 7, touch point 12, that many contacts is offline before a sale actually happens. So the fact that you're, scheduling that next touch point immediately while messaging someone speaks loudly. And then I don't do the 6-month and 12-month video reposts. We do repurpose content over time, but we don't have a schedule around it. I think that's brilliant because it gets them thinking about you. If they're monitoring their analytics or digital presence whatsoever, it's going to show up and they're going to say, oh, wow, I really got a lot of that episode. I should get in touch with Jeremy. So I imagine that's yielding for you.
Part of it's a reminder to me to follow up with the person too. Like
Yeah.
I see it on LinkedIn and I'm like, oh yeah, how are they doing? Right. And so, that helps me process it as well.
We're busy people in a busy world. Our guests are, doing 100 other things that week. So it definitely helps to have those reminders. I look at my playlist at times and think, oh, wow, I haven't talked to this person in a while. We hit it off. I should see what they're up to. So I think that's a great benefit. You were talking about the Dream 200. Building out your ideal customer profiles, the strategic partners that have overlaps with those types of businesses and looking to have them on a podcast as well. What are the steps that follow? When someone really understands the target
Yeah.
audiences that they want to go after, strategic partners, conferences, authors, what do the next pieces of the puzzle look like?
Yeah. For me, I mean, it's the next step is reaching out. Right. And reaching out is I call it copywriting 101, right? I like to reach out with a give, right? And that's why I was talking to someone a couple weeks ago and I was like, I don't know how I would reach out to people if I didn't have a podcast. Like, I mean, I could reach out, but is it really that compelling? Does someone want to do a get to know you call? Really? And so just if you don't want to do a podcast, it's fine, but it has to be a give to that person, right? Whatever that is. And for me, it's a podcast. It could be, hey, I want to post about you on social. I just want to get a quick call in to get a couple points together, whatever it is. But for me, I get, and you probably get it too. I get so many messages in my email and my LinkedIn that are horrendous. It's basically 4 paragraphs of them pitching their services. And I'm like, who responds to these things? And so for me, the copywriting 101 is one, specifically list the criteria I'm looking to feature. And I could be asking for an introduction too. One, it's got to be including social proof elements. Okay. For me. So it's like, why? Okay. Here's my specific ask of why I'm asking them. Right. So it could be, hey, I'm looking for CEOs of B2B SaaS companies that have over 200 staff. I'd love to feature you. Hey, I've had the founder of Zapier, Pipedrive, Aweber, and there's social proof in there. And you know, those are the elements I find a lot of people, it is not pitching, it's an ask, it's a give, right? My ask is a give, and I'm listing the criteria and I'm listing social proof, right? When I reached out to the founder of Pixar, he never asked me, Jason, how many downloads do you have?
Right.
By the way, I don't even keep track of it, to be honest
Sure.
with you. I don't look at it. That's not my metric. My metric is how do I give to these people? Okay. And the reason he didn't ask is because that's one item of social proof, right? And this goes for any reach out, right? What's the social proof? If I'm responding to a cold email, I'm looking at that social proof signaling. Like, is this a legit company? What have they done? So one of my friends, I'm very into protein bars, okay, from a health perspective.
Very
And one of
nice.
my friends was like, oh, I love this IQ bar. I'm like, oh, what's IQ bar? I don't know what that is. And then I checked it out. I bought it. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to have the founder on. And, I reached out, and within 15 minutes of reaching out, he said yes. And my friend's like, how did that happen? Well, I just emailed him. The true story is I had a lot of layers of social proof in there. Okay.
Sure.
And I said, hey, first of all, I love your bar. I love this flavor, because I already bought it. Okay. Which
Specifics.
goes back into buying their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said someone else mentioned them, which is some social proof. Two, I said, by the way, I'd also the founder of RX Bar, P90X, Quest Nutrition, and probably 3 other bars on. So it didn't hurt. Like, oh, this person's legit. And actually, they've had bigger companies than me on there. But if it's not it's not always the case. If someone's like, why I haven't had all these people on, there's still social proof elements that you can signal with. But that's why, I mean, he didn't say, who is this person? I put the links to those episodes in there. He's like, okay, this is legit. I'll come on, right? In a very short period of time. And since then, I've referred lots of people to IQ Bar. I've referred introductions when I was in Miami, invite them to an event that we ran there. And so, just keeping in touch that way, but it's social proof is huge. And that's, you see some of the best websites on there. You have it on yours. I mean, if you look on your website, it says Forbes, Inc. 5000, Business Insider, the Wall Street Journal, right on the above the fold, which is all social proof on why should I think about this company, And so it's such an important element, but that's in every single email. And my emails could be 4 sentences, right?
Yeah.
They're not
Brief.
long. First of all, busy founders want short emails. I mean, it could be the best email ever. I'm like, maybe I just read the whole email sometimes. I'm like, hey, if you included paragraph 3 as the only thing and put it at the top, that would have been more compelling. And sometimes I'll just share that. And I spent, because I geek out on this stuff, Jason, 6 months interviewing the top direct response marketers and copywriters in the world, because I thought it was such an important skill that I wanted, and I just learned from them. So Joe Sugarman, who maybe most people have never heard of him. He's one of my favorite books on copywriting of all time. But he started Blue Blockers. I don't know if anyone out there knows what Blue Blockers are, but they were selling 300,000 pairs of sunglasses a month through direct television. Okay. And he wrote the Ad Week Copywriting Handbook, which is the ultimate guide to writing powerful advertising and marketing copy. Anyways, these are the legends that I was fortunate enough to talk to and learn from. And I use these elements in my emails, in my copy and everything. And just Ben Settle too is another one. I subscribe to his email. He does an email a day. Subscribe, and I just watch what he does, right? Because he's a genius at copywriting and emailing. So some of these elements I'm just simplifying, and these people are legends that I learned from. And I incorporate like one nugget, and it's helped me a ton.
People don't believe what they read online. The more social proof, the more third-party validation, the better. When I'm analyzing a landing page, if I'm doing conversion rate optimization, social proof is always part of the discussion. Could always be more. Presented intelligently, of course. Have your audience in mind. What are they going to respond to? The exact way you're talking about. What is my end consumer, client, prospect, strategic partner going to be thinking when they see this? Even more so in that direct messaging. I love how you emphasized in as few words as possible. Of course, 4 sentences versus 4 paragraphs. I've done exercises where it's 3 words versus 3 sentences, describing what a company does. So part of a sentence, part of a few sentences, perhaps, but it's got to carry its weight. If a word doesn't need to be there, remove it. Look to shorten. I use the number 3 quite a bit because I feel people can remember 3 things. As soon as I put it into a list of 4, they feel like they need to be writing it down, but I can remember 3 things. So I like even hearing you break it down into 3 things. When we're talking about the criteria, when we're talking about the social proof, when we're talking about, your list of, hey, this is what it really needs to be in there. You can see this is well structured. It's thought out. It's designed, engineered to get that response. I'm going to check out that Ad Week copy
It's the
writing
best.
handbook. I follow Ad Week. We do different advertising programs. We run ads using social handles. There's a lot. I'm coming from the advertising space. I've always followed Ad Week. I have not looked at that handbook.
Yeah.
And you could always be better. at copywriting. You could always find new ways to, sell me this pen or whatever is required, given different asks and different mediums, different formats. But the psychology around it is really what gets me. Sometimes it's a completely different angle, and being able to tap into, now it's for podcasting, but being able to tap into fear, being able to tap into maybe some of those obstacles and get a response versus having, a more warm, welcoming approach. We're big on A/B testing as well too, so we'll have assumptions going in. Hey, this makes
Mm.
a lot of sense. We should try this, but we'll run 10 different variants, and then let the data show us what's working best and do more of it.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, one of my favorites is Perry Marshall's 80/20 sales and marketing. Because obviously, he talks about marketing, but he is a genius, copywriter, direct response marketer. All these guys are. So yeah, if you have any suggestions for me, anyone listening, email me or message me on LinkedIn. I will geek out on that stuff.
Sure. I always talk about Ryan Foland, the 313 method, which is actually breaking down what a company, what an individual does into 3 sentences. And it's an exercise to get it into 1 sentence and then into 3 words. Ryan's had 4 TEDx talks, just put out a book called Speakership. And I've had the opportunity of being on stage with them at a lot of different events. I'm always a student when I'm around. He does the same with my marketing discussions, but his communication abilities make me rethink what we're doing for our advertising copy, for our long form content development, and definitely around the podcast. Do you get asked a lot of questions about audience building for podcasts, given it's B2B? But
Oh
have
yeah,
you found any different approaches to be able to build up a more substantial viewer listener
yeah.
base?
You know, Jason, people ask that all the time, and I give them an answer they don't like, typically. Okay, which it is for me. It's really about the right audience, not the big audience. And most people um, are sometimes thinking about vanity metrics, like, oh, I need to get like 100,000 or a million. I'm like, listen,
Yeah.
if you could get in touch with and get in front of the top 100 people in this industry, does it really matter if you have 10,000 or 100,000 or a million, you know, download subscribers or whatever? And they get it at that point. It's a B2B. It's like, okay, I'm going to personally take 100 of those best relationships that are top in the industry because they know the other people in the industry. That's also the beautiful thing about an interview-based show is that person sharing it with other people in their industry. So, you know, some people, there's, you know, thought leadership episodes on a podcast and there's external interviews. Thought leadership, I define as someone from that company, that person's expertise, the team's expertise, and then the interview is obviously external interview based. Some people, just want to do thought leadership episodes. You see some podcasts out there, and it's just them sharing, how do you do accounting? How do you do that? That's fine and that's helpful, but if you really want to grow your reach, right? Interview based episodes are the best because listen, when you share this on LinkedIn, guess what I'm going to do?
Yep.
I'm going to reshare it across my, you know, 45,000 combined company and personal profile people on LinkedIn. Great. So some people I find the biggest names, they also go after big names because they think they're going to get a lot of following. I find actually the opposite, like people who have like smaller niche followings gets way more than someone who's, take example, let's say um, the founder of Zapier, like, oh my God, they have millions of. Well, actually, he's just so busy, right? And that I don't fault him for that. He's just busy. It's not his number one priority. But someone who's got a smaller niche audience, they're going to take the time and they're going to share it. They're going to promote it. They're going to put in their emails. They're going to really promote it around. I find that gets way more reach than some big name that I may have on the show, honestly. So from that, I'm looking again, still more at that quality over quantity
Yep.
type of reach. And, you know, again, we did a podcast that was in the pest control space. Okay. Who's
Popular.
good? How many people are going to really watch that? Okay. But they didn't care. They just wanted other people in the pest control space to watch it and see it and know it's there. And part of that is just from having them come on the show and sharing with their close circle of network. So I don't, from the audience building, it's inherent and natural in an interview-based show, but I'm focused more on quality than quantity.
Yeah. I like the way you laid that out. It's a question I get asked a lot as well. And I go into this whole funnel conversation with top of funnel and traffic and the people who get to lower and lower sections, consideration, intent before conversion occurs. And I know you're measuring ROI on this. So if you can get an audience of mid funnel, lower funnel individuals, your dream 200, if you will, it really doesn't matter if it's 10, 100 of them. I picture 100 physical people in a room versus 10,000, 50,000, where you may only hear from 5 of the people afterwards. If you're getting a larger response from that 100, I mean, it's a no-brainer. How do you calculate ROI, by the way? Is it just straight, hey, these are clients that have been brought in after the episode, the podcast series
Yeah.
launched, quarter, half year, annual? What are realistic ways to measure?
Yeah, I mean, for me, ROI is a couple things. One is time. Time ROI. So some people think of, new clients, new referral partners, those are all ROI as well. But for me, it's also saving time. Meaning on the thought leadership side, how many hours has myself and our team saved because we created episodes like, how do you name my podcast?
Yeah.
Or how do I launch my podcast if I'm a B2B business?
Just point
Right?
to it.
Or what thought leadership episodes should I create? So it's saved us a ton of time because it's answering questions. We've tried to create an episode on almost every question we've gotten. And so everything we give away for free on the podcast. But if someone obviously wants the hand holding and the done for you and the white glove, then they have us, right? But it saved us so much time on that end. And it obviously is authority, right? If someone's listening to this, they're like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. So it's authority as well. It's nurturing. But on the other hand, obviously, I focus more on strategic and referral partners. Like some people do have potential clients on, and those potential clients could be inbound or outbound. Like sometimes, let's say a software company contacted me last week and they're like, hey, Jeremy, I want to hear, and we're thinking of starting a podcast. Can we talk? I go, yeah, I have a software series. Do you want to come on? I'm going to ask you questions about your business anyways. Why don't you just come on the show? So someone would argue, Jason, that person was already probably going to be a client. Well, who cares? Like I wanted to memorialize the conversation, get to know them, and I could do that through the podcast, right? And that wasn't outbound, right? That was just inbound. Someone was interested. I said, let's just have an episode about it, right? I still consider that ROI. It's part of the nurturing sequence. It's part of ways I can give to them.
Absolutely.
And some people would say, Jeremy, why don't you save that, right? Like have the conversation, and if they don't become a client, then save that in your back pocket and have them on later. I'm like, I could do that, but who cares? Like, I want to have them on, and you can do that too. Like, you can just be like, listen, that's just another good outreach to say, hey, why don't you come on the podcast or whatever. So it could be it's like a touch point. You mentioned 7, 10, 15 touch points, and that's sometimes what it takes. And so, which one touch point resulted in them as being a client? Well, all of them, right? So it could be having them on. Obviously, if the person becomes a client, that is ROI.
Yep.
If someone sometimes people come on the podcast and they start referring. I didn't realize they were going to be a referral partner, but if they've referred someone, right? I consider having my clients on the podcast as ROI because they're marketing. Those are marketing episodes, right? Obviously, it's all about their business, but they're going to say nice things about me, and it's kind of like a mini testimonial inside of the episode, right? So I consider that ROI as well. So having my clients on for the podcast, people are like, who have you worked with? Go check out those like 50 episodes.
Yeah.
I did, right? And so all of those I consider ROI. But if I do look through I look over the course of a year, which one of my people, again, Let's say you referred us 5 people this past year. Well, you're already a referral partner, but let's say just because I had you on the podcast, I featured you, maybe you referred an extra 1 or 2 people just because I was more top of mind for you, right? So I look at over the course of a year, who are those referral partners, strategic partners? Who are some of the clients that happens to that were nurtured through the process? But it's never one thing, right? And what are the episodes we created that saved tons of time?
And I imagine having a client on, or right before you bring in a client, that shows up in LTV, lifetime value, like you mentioned. It's all about those
Yeah, for sure.
relationships, even more than the monetary exchange. A good client, whether they stay with you long term, they're probably going to refer people to you over the years. They may come back in and with different projects, different companies at times. So many different ways to look at it. That's why I don't have a specific calculator. And a lot of the things that you've emphasized thus far, being able to point prospects, people you're speaking to different links. Oh, you should just take a listen to this episode. I just did a discussion around this. You're going to love it. You're going to hear firsthand why social proof matters, from a founder, not just me saying it, but they're going to talk about how they started showing up with different publishers and different podcasts on a weekly basis and what that did for their conversion rate. Again, having that third party stated, that playlist, I have a playlist of past clients. I don't actually use the podcast as much for bringing in new clients. If someone reaches out to me and I find them interesting, I'll have them on, even if they're not a client, but it's mainly clients and strategic partners. But again, I can't say enough good things about what podcasting has provided me. I'm learning. I already took a page and a half of notes here. I love the conversation. So it's just one thing after another to list. If someone is tuned in right now, and they're thinking about launching their own podcast and want to build strategic partnerships, want to build relationships, what recommendations would you have for them to test out? I look at the early stages of the endeavor as a test, and again, using the data to determine where to go from there. What insights, I don't want to say shortcuts, but what, time savers can you enroll them in?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what I was talking before is just if you have the list of your best partners, what's something you can do to give to them today, right? That could be introducing them to someone. That could be posting about them on social. Like if you look at my LinkedIn feed, I'm really not posting about myself. I'm just posting about other people. If I discover a product, sometimes I'll just take a picture of the product and post about it, right? It takes like 3 minutes to do, right? And so just those are things, ways to give to your network of people, even people you don't know, right? It's as simple as that, right? I go obviously more in depth the more time and depth I have, you can record a episode with someone, of course, and do that as well. But there's simple things you can do just to give to someone.
And what about optimization? So you're getting some response. It's not quite enough to move the needle. How do you manage this activity to a point of effectiveness? How do you pivot if necessary to determine, hey, we need to change our give up a little bit, or our messaging, or our targets? Dream 200, maybe we need to reformat, rethink that a little
Yeah,
bit.
that's a good point. I mean, I'm always thinking of testing 3 different categories at once, right? Because let's say someone goes in and really we look at the past, right? If I ask someone, Jason, who are your best clients? Sometimes they don't know, right? And like, okay, let's look at actual 10 of your current or past clients and what industries are they in? And let's say, there's one person I was talking to and they had like 3 different niches they want to test. They wanted to test luxury goods, government. Like these are opposite ends of the spectrum here. Luxury goods, government, and then engineering firms. That's their different client buckets. So I go, listen, why don't you have on 3 or 4 guests in each of these buckets and see how it goes? Test it, right? You may find, okay, the government was really a pain in the butt to get to the person I needed to. They didn't want to share because they couldn't, because they were who knows, right? It's all a test, like you said. It's all a test. We can make our best predictions. And I try and not come in with the beginner's mindset, which is just have on 3, 4, 5. Obviously, the bigger the sample size, the better, but have on 5 for each category and be like, listen, I really geeked out on the luxury goods company. Nothing happened with it. It was harder to get the government people on, but actually I got in some real conversations. They were really interested.
Mhm.
Okay, great. You like this, but like this was actually better in the long run. So I tell people test those, several people in different niches to see which one they like and which one, um, you know, is easier, which one maybe comes to fruition, right? It's hard to say like within 5, but like when you look at a 6-month period, you can see.
Oh yeah. With enough volume, you can optimize towards what's working best.
Yeah.
You just have to know what you're looking to get data around going
Yeah.
in
But if
and
we have
set up the
past
framework.
data, you know what I mean? Like we already know these people have become clients of theirs or partners.
Mhm.
So we're coming in not making like just throwing a dart at the wall. They've already had maybe even a business for 7 years. So we kind of have some idea. So it's just a matter of testing within there.
What about scaling? This may be audience growth for, a podcaster. This could be around that outreach towards guests and, going up to the next caliber, maybe larger audiences, larger brands, the guests that you're going after. It could be around the business itself or well of a more oiled machine towards partnership development. I could tell you we have a list of, a couple hundred different strategic partners and how to go to great lengths to build that up over time. What does scaling look like for you? Any tips, any
Yeah.
examples?
For scaling for us, I always recommend in the beginning, like you were talking about before, not scaling and like really figuring out before like putting fuel on it.
Yeah,
And then we're like,
timing.
okay, so yeah, let's say software founders are great, right? So what does scale look like for us? We do a lot of cold emailing. And the cold email is not pitching a service. It's cold emailing is having them come on the podcast, right? So it's a give outreach. We also do a lot of gifting because that's one thing we actually only started doing because people asked us, but we gift to our clients and partners on a regular basis. So if someone refers to someone, they may get a gift every 3 to 4 months for 4 or 5 years from us.
Wow.
And so we send at this point probably a couple hundred gifts every couple months
What kind of
out.
gifts?
So they're usually I don't like sending like tchotchke type of things like mugs or pens. And some people may disagree with this approach, but I like getting food
Okay.
items. Okay. So really we're sending in like a custom box, like a Rise 25 box with this stationery, or if it's from another, well, if we do it for another company, it's got their custom stuff on it. So, it's all branded to that company. And we may send chocolate covered pretzels. We may send caramel popcorn. We may like all food related stuff. So when they get it, they're like, oh, this is going to be something delicious.
Yeah.
Even though I'm pretty healthy, it may not be the healthiest, but that's okay. Um,
It could be
I like,
IQ bars.
right, exactly. We haven't said IQ bars yet, but I would like if I got a box of IQ bars. But yeah, it's food related items that I would like getting, and that's what we send.
It's perfect. I have received candy worms from vendors that I wasn't going to use, and then once the bottle's finished, I should probably call them. I feel bad at this point. You just like them more. We've done the holiday gift baskets, of course, but there's different creativity. I imagine you could use there. I had to ask because you kept saying gifts. I was picturing, are these globes or
I mean,
TVs or what are we sending
like
out here?
here's an example. This is just like a green tea. This is not
Beautiful.
ours, but a different company. Just a green
Yeah.
tea in the box. Now for partners who are sending a lot of referrals maybe at once, they'll be in our like we call it scaling, which is a system. It's just like they're getting the gifts. We may send a one-off thing. I've sent people, I found out their favorite sports team and got like a picture frame with all the signatures of their favorite sports team. So we'll send some one-off things as well. I've sent I don't know if you've seen man crates before. Have you seen that?
No.
So it's like basically I got one and I'm like, oh, this is great. So we'll send that one off, which it comes in a big wooden box with a crowbar. and
Oh,
you
wow.
literally have to crowbar it open to get it.
I've heard of
And
this before.
yeah, and
Yes.
so we've sent, someone who drinks, it's like the custom glasses with their initials on it, and like a decanter, like a whiskey decanter with their initials on it, with some like it comes with like whatever nuts or bacon related items or something. So we'll send those kind of one-off things. But I like to have a system on top of those one-off things because sometimes it's just takes more time and energy, and I just want to make sure it happens.
It's such a nice touch, especially in this digital era, to receive something physical, a consumable, something you enjoy. I think it's great. It goes beyond just an email follow-up. You want to be clever about how you write the emails, of course, but hey, how are you doing? Hope the holidays are going well. It shows them physically that you're thinking of them. You are all about the relationships, the partnerships, having long form content, and that synergy building through podcasts. I really appreciate you taking the time to hop on the show here and open up with us. I have different ideas how to scale our business development program that are spiraling right now, just as you're talking about it. If anyone's tuned in and they want to get in touch with you, where are the best places for them to go? And as we begin to wrap up, any final thoughts you want to leave the audience here with today?
No, I mean, my only final thought, and people could check out inspiredinsider.com, which is all free. It's the podcast. If you go to the about page, you could find my info or contact me, or go to LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if you send me a message, hey, I heard about you on Jason's podcast. That's great. Or Rise 25, the contact page on rise25.com. So there's lots of ways. But definitely connect on LinkedIn if you're listening to this.
Yes.
My only final thought, really, Jason, is just it doesn't have to be that difficult. Okay. I would say if someone's listening, there's a lot of information, but I like action, right? So I just encourage someone to take out our closest contacts are in our phone. Okay. So if you're listening to this, I love action. Take out your text, just scroll back, just like take your finger and scroll. So it goes back 2 months, see who you haven't connected with in a while, and just send them a quick voice text and just say, hey, I was listening to this weirdo, Jeremy, and he told me to say hey to someone who I haven't talked to in a while, who's awesome. That's you. Whatever you want your message to be, but just text someone and see how they're doing. See how you can help them. See what they're working on. And that's it, right? I mean, it takes literally 20 seconds to do that.
And if you don't, those 2 months could turn to 2 years pretty quickly.
Totally.
It's such a great thing to make a point to do that right now. I've actually been opening up a lot of emails and messaging like that recently of, hey, I was just thinking about you, especially if I'm able to tie it into an actual memory. You mentioned a
Yeah.
sports team, whatever, maybe city, travel, but let them know you're thinking about them and it's real. This isn't just a spam
Listen, people know
text.
when they get something from me, like there's
Yeah.
no agenda. Like
Yeah.
I'm literally just saying hello to see how they're doing. There's nothing going to be follow up with. And by the way, there's nothing by the way. I'm just seeing how you're doing. That's it. I don't want anything. So people start to realize that, oh, he's just calling. He's really genuinely interested. So that's it.
Jeremy, you are a wealth of knowledge. I love the recommendations. And again, can't thank you enough for taking the time to hop on the podcast here. I want to listen to more of the podcast in your ecosystem. Let me listen to more of your episodes. Thanks for tuning into mine there. And have a whiteboard meeting that I'm going to be scheduling with my team to talk about partnership funnels, giving, and just implementing some of the tips, the ideas you gave here today. Again, we're already doing pieces of it, but I have a lot more to work off of after this conversation. So can't tell you how much I appreciate the time today.
Thanks, Jason. I love your podcast too. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time. And don't forget to reach out to Jeremy as well as to text people from 2 months ago. Voice text. Get it out. Take care.